Hi friends, hope you have taken mock test 2 and now you are going to listen to the answers of mock test 2 and listen. So from mock test 1 you should have improved yourself, and in mock test 2 the improvement should be good, and so that whenever I am discussing you please take your answer sheet and you please check whether whatever points that I am telling are present are there or not, and accordingly you give marking for your answers so that you will know whether you have done perfectly or not and how many marks that you can expect, etc. we can discuss. Okay, so mock test 1 I did not do that because in mock test 1 that was a trial for you. So like you have learned many things, and based on that you should have improved in mock test 2 answer presentation. Okay, so now let's move on to this question, that is mock test 2 integrated. First question is integrated case scenario MCQ question, and in that so there are some it's pretty decent question. In mock test 1 I gave a simple question, and now in mock test 2 I made it little difficult. Okay, so see this. Advanced Traders is a partnership firm in Jaipur, Rajasthan. The firm has obtained GST registration at its head office in Jaipur. So they are located in Rajasthan. Further, the firm is having its depot for storage of goods in other districts in Rajasthan. So they are fully operating within Rajasthan. The depots are added as additional place of business in the GST registration obtained at the head office. Following details are provided about the firm for the month of July. So for the month of July, there are 3 transactions carried out by that partnership firm, that is Advanced Traders. Transaction number 1, Advanced Traders received goods worth rupees 5 lakhs for which GST is payable on reverse charge basis. The goods were received on 25th July, the supplier issued invoice on 24th July and payment for the same was made by Advanced Traders on 30th July. Due to absence of accountant, the transaction was recorded in the books on 1st August. Okay. Next, transaction number 2, in the month of July, Advanced Traders issued vouchers worth rupees 2 lakhs to its customers, which were eligible to be redeemed against identified goods, and there were again some 5 lakh rupees worth of vouchers which can be redeemed against any supply. So there are both identifiable and non-identifiable vouchers. Transaction 3, Mr. X, a partner in the firm, booked a hotel at Udaipur, Rajasthan. Where are they located? Rajasthan. Even the hotel is booked in Rajasthan for the wedding of his daughter in the month of October. The advance amount of 5 lakhs for booking the hotel was paid by way of online payment from the current account of Advanced Traders in July. The hotel charged GST on the booking at the rate of 28% on the amount received as advance and issued a receipt voucher. Then the balance of input tax credit as on 1st July, opening balance is nil, and for all the registrations GST is applicable in the aforesaid case scenario at the following rates unless otherwise specified: CGST 9, SGST 9 and IGST 18%. All the amounts given above are exclusive of GST wherever applicable. Based on the aforesaid case scenario, please answer the following questions. First, what is the time of supply in case of transaction number 1? So here, what is the transaction number 1? It is goods which are covered under RCM. What is the provision for goods covered under RCM? Time of supply, section 12 subsection 3. That is the date on which goods are received. What is the date on which goods are received here? The goods are received on 25th of July. The goods are received on 25th July. The supplier issued the invoice on 24th July. So from invoice we need to take 31st day. So not 61st day, from invoice 31st day. So 24th July. So it is 24th of August, because anyhow in July there are 31 days. So therefore it is 24th of August. 24th of August, and the payment for the same is made by Advanced Traders on 30th July. Due to absence of the account, the transaction was recorded in the books on 1st August. So whichever is earlier should be taken as the date of payment. So the date of payment is 30th July. This is the date of payment. So now between these 3 dates, 25th July, 24th August and 30th July, which is earlier? 25th July is the earlier date. 25th July. Actually, it's a mistake, typo. It's actually 25th July in the answer. It's a mistake here, it's a typo. 25th, instead of 25th, I just mentioned it as 24th. So it is 25th of July. Option B is the answer for that. Okay. Then next. So what is the provision that we have applied? Section 12 subsection 3. The time of supply we determine. Then what is the time of supply for transaction number 2? What is transaction number 2 related to vouchers? For vouchers, it is 12 subsection 4 or 13 subsection 4, the provision will not differ. And what should be taken as the time of supply? If it is identifiable voucher. See, vouchers are not supply, but that will be treated as consideration with respect to supply of goods or services. Now we need to check what kind of vouchers it is. Identifiable or non-identifiable voucher. If it is identifiable voucher, we need to take at the time of issuance of voucher. If it is non-identifiable voucher, we need to take at the time of redemption of voucher. So here you please check what type of voucher it is. We have both identifiable vouchers. So what is the value of identifiable vouchers? 2 lakhs. So we need to take at the time of issuance of voucher. Whereas 5 lakhs, also certain set of customers were issued vouchers worth rupees 5 lakhs which were redeemed against any supply. So 5 lakhs is non-identifiable vouchers. So in case of 2 lakhs, it is the date of issuance of voucher, and for 5 lakhs, it is the date of redemption. So option C is the answer for that. Okay. Then next. Number 3, amount of input tax credit available to advanced traders against a hotel booking expense. If you see that hotel booking expense, what has happened? That is not for the course of furtherance of business. Section 16 subsection 1 says that only a registered person can avail ITC, and such inward supply should be used in the course of furtherance of business. But if you see here, that is partner's daughter's marriage, money is paid out of the firm, that's a personal expenditure, and how it will be coming under eligibility for ITC. It is not in the course or furtherance of business. Therefore, ITC not available, nil. Now, suppose if it is a business expenditure, even then they cannot take ITC in July month. They can take ITC only in October month, because based on receipt voucher we cannot take ITC. There is another condition, section 16 subsection 2 says only when the goods and service are actually received we can take ITC. So in this case, the goods or service are not actually received in July month, it is received in October month. In July month there is only receipt voucher. Based on receipt voucher we cannot take ITC even if it is a business expenditure. Okay. Will your answer differ if the hotel is located in other state? That's what they are asking. If the hotel is located outside Rajasthan, then also the answer will be same, there is no change. So the answer is A, nil. There will be no change even if the hotel is located in outside Rajasthan. Okay. Then next, number 4, compute the GST liability to be discharged from electronic cash ledger for the month of July by advanced traders. First transaction is there, inward supply. On that inward supply, how much it is? 5 lakhs. And whether the time of supply is July month? Of course, yes. Into 18%, 90,000 they need to pay GST under RCM. That 90,000 they cannot pay using the credit balance. That 90,000 they need to pay first of all, always using the cash ledger. But this 90,000 can be taken as credit in the same month and adjusted against some other liability. What is there? Some other liability. So they have made identifiable vouchers and non-identifiable vouchers. Identifiable vouchers this month they have issued, that is the time of supply. So 2 lakhs is the identifiable vouchers into 18%, 36,000. For non-identifiable vouchers, whenever it is redeemed at the time only the time of supply arises, not now. So the 36,000 they need to pay as GST under outward supply. Now they have 90,000 of credit because first they need to pay GST under RCM. So they got 90,000 of credit. Using that 90,000 rupees credit, they will be using it for payment of the 36,000, which means the liability will be nil. No, that 90,000 first we need to pay na. So that 90,000 will be the GST payable. That 90,000 will be the GST payable. We will think the liability as 0 because 36,000 is the liability, but 90,000 credit we have. We will think about that only. But first that 90,000 how we got? First we should pay it under RCM, and then we can take it as credit and adjust against other liabilities. So therefore 90,000 no doubt we need to pay. Okay. And some will answer it as 36,000, thinking that 90,000 we need to pay GST under RCM and credit available is 90,000. So therefore 90 will set off, only 36,000 we need to pay. Like that people will think, but that is not correct one. Okay. So this is the answer for that. So A and B. Next. Question number 2. If the aggregate turnover of the advanced traders in financial year 16, no, it is another question. Aggregate turnover in financial year 2016-17 of ABCD Enterprises, Kanchipuram, Tamil Nadu, India was 18 lakhs. Exemption is available for the following services rendered to ABCD Enterprise. Arbitral tribunal service, yes, to a business entity whose turnover during the previous year does not exceed the threshold limit for registration. Legal service by firm of advocates, legal service by senior advocate. In all these three cases, exemption is available if service is provided to a business entity whose turnover during the previous year does not exceed the threshold limit for registration. Therefore, accordingly, here all the above, it is exempted. Then option D is the answer for that. In case of compulsory registration, input tax credit can be availed on stocks held on the day immediately preceding the day from which he becomes liable to pay tax under provisions of this act, provided application for registration is filed within 30 days. There is a concept called as section 18(1)(a), subsection 1 clause A, that is, whenever a person is liable to get registered and make application for registration within 30 days, then that person can take ITC with respect to GST paid on inputs as such held in stock, inputs in WIP which is in stock, inputs in FG which is in stock, immediately before the day that person is liable to get registered. In case of compulsory registration, when a person is liable to get registered, whenever they commence the business or commence the activity covered under compulsory registration. So therefore, option A, they are making application within 30 days, and can they take ITC on the closing stock? Yes, they can take ITC on the closing stock. So option A itself is the answer. Option B, stocks held on the day immediately preceding the date of grant of registration. No, not grant of registration, because they are liable to get registered and they are going for registration. Before the date of registration certificate is only for those who voluntarily got registered. Then, stocks held on the day immediately preceding the date of application for registration under the provisions of this act. So, stocks held on the day immediately before the date of application, no, it is before the date they are liable to get registered. Then, so therefore, for question number 3, the answer is A. Then question number 4, Xylo and Company has 3 branches in Jalandhar, Amritsar and Ludhiana in the state of Punjab. All these 3 is in the state of Punjab. Amritsar and Ludhiana branches are engaged in supply of garments, and Jalandhar branch engaged in supply of shoes. Which of the following options is or are legally available for registration to Xylo and Company? Xylo and Co can obtain single registration for Punjab, declaring any one of the branches as principal place of business and other 2 branches as additional place of business. See, whenever within the state we have multiple place of business, we have only 2 options. Either go for a single registration and show all other places as additional place of business and any one place as the principal place of business. Or option 2, go for separate registrations with respect to all the place of business. So Xylo can obtain single registration for Punjab, declaring any one of the branches as principal place of business and other places as additional place of business. That statement is correct. Number 2, Xylo and Company can obtain separate GST registration for each of the following 3 branches. Even that is also correct. Xylo can obtain one GST registration for shoe business and another registration which is common for garment business. No, because once you go for separate registration with respect to each place, you need to go for separate registration. So point number 3 is not possible. Either it is 1 or 2. Option C is the answer. Option C is the answer. Okay. So then look into descriptive questions. So based on this, you can easily give the marks. So far whatever we have discussed, it's direct. So if that is the option, you please give the marks in your answer sheet accordingly. Okay. See, I am believing that you have taken the exam, because I gave the test 2 days before. Yesterday I gave the answers, and today this video is being uploaded. So therefore, even if you have missed out taking the test day before yesterday, at least by yesterday you should have taken. So you need to take the test and you need to write the answer. See, because of the COVID pandemic, I could not conduct the test in a place under a strict environment and take the papers and evaluate and give. So I could not do that. And even I don't have that much of human resource to do the evaluation of the paper. So that's the reason why. So I'm doing it, but definitely for next attempts onwards, so we can work on it. So but right now, so please take the answer sheet and give the evaluation so that you will know how many marks you got. Okay. So therefore, here out of this 12 marks, if you are able to get some 10 marks, this is 12 marks, MCQ portion 10 marks saved. So you got this, you got your marks. So 10 marks you got. And so then see, it is like brick by brick only we can construct the house. So this 10 marks, 5 marks, like that, small numbers only will reach 50. Our target is 50, not 1 mark more, 1 mark less. Because, CA intermediate, group 1 and group 2, 800 marks. What I need is 400 out of 800. Not 1 mark more, not 1 mark less. I don't want. Because no one is going to ask me how much marks you got. That is irrelevant. That is irrelevant. Sir, I cleared CA Inter, enough. No one will ask how much percentage you got. You cleared CA Inter. That itself is an achievement. Okay. And in articleship they will ask, like, boss, you are just passed. It's okay. Whichever firm can give us articleship, we will go for that firm. End of the day, because of articleship, so what we are going to do is, we are going to work for them. Incidentally, we may learn some things, but we don't know whether that will be useful post CA or not. So because once we clear CA, this may be useful for exam, some knowledge we will be getting, and post completion of CA, suppose if we go into a different domain wherein we did not do anything related to that in articleship, so who knows. So therefore, any mid-sized firm will be giving, because what they need is bonded labor and you are ready-made available. So they will not also be bothered. Only some big firms will be asking for how much percentage you got, all this nonsense and all. But otherwise, CA Inter cleared is cleared. Very simple. Okay. Therefore, so we need to achieve that target of 50% in all subjects. Suppose if in a few subjects we are able to get more marks, it's good only. Because in some subjects maybe we may target 50, we may not get 50, we may get 47, 48. So there that 2 marks, 3 marks extra what we get can be taken care. Okay, you understood? So due to that reason, every mark is important. Now, so in this, at least our target should be 10 out of 12. Next, look into question number 5. Measures XYZ, it's a descriptive question, okay? Measures XYZ, a registered dealer engaged in supplying exempted goods to its customers. So they are engaged in exempted supplies. On 17/6, exemption notification was resigned and the goods were liable for tax. Measures XYZ has to make e-payment of tax on the due date, that is 27. Determine the eligible credit for the month of June 2019 if the following information is provided. Value of inputs lying in stock as on 16/6, all the inputs were procured after 1/3/2019. All the inputs were procured after 1/3/2019. Now, actually what is the section that is being applied here? It should strike in your mind first. And the presentation should start with that section only. So, you need to write first, check whether you have written this information in the answer sheet. As per section 18 subsection 1 clause D, a registered person whose exempted supplies have become taxable can avail GST with respect to inputs as such held in stock, point number 1. Inputs in WIP lying in stock, point number 2. Point number 3, inputs in FG which is lying in stock, and point number 4, capital goods after for the balance useful life, capital goods with respect to the balance useful life. So this should be taken, and another point also you should have written as per section 18 subsection 2, as per, so which date closing stock we should take? Immediately before the date. So our exempted supplies have become taxable, and what is the time limit within which this stock should have been purchased? It should have been purchased within 1 year as on the closing stock date, means from the date of invoice to the closing stock date it should be 1 year. So these points you have to write in the initial start. This is an 8 marks question. So when you write this initial paragraph, you will get 2 marks for writing the provision as to which section based on which this question is created. You will get 2 marks for writing that provision. Okay, so say this like this, you need to write the provision first. You need to write the provision first, and for writing this provision first, you will be given 2 marks. You will be given 2 marks. Okay, then next we have computation of input tax credit. So I told you for every question we need to give when you are answering as to what is that answer about. So what is the requirement here? They have purchased some inputs lying in stock, inputs contained in semi-finished goods, inputs received and capital goods. They are asking us to compute the credit. So determination of eligible ITC for the month of June 2019. First, you will take inputs lying in stock. Check whether it is purchased within 1 year prior. Yes, because the date on which it is procured is 1/3/2019, and we are checking the closing stock as on 16/6. Which date we need to take? Immediately before the date our exempted supplies have become taxable. That is 17/6 our exempted supply have become taxable. Therefore we need to take 16/6. So 1/3/2019 to 16/6/2019 is within 1 year, and we can take ITC with respect to this 12,000. Then value of inputs contained in semi-finished goods lying in stock as on 16/6, but only inputs worth rupees 85,000 in semi-finished goods were procured after 16/6/2018. Now in this 1,35,000 is in the form of inputs in semi-finished goods, but actually out of this 1,35,000, 85,000 worth of inputs is only purchased within 1 year. So therefore proportionate calculation we need to make. So 85,000 into 8,100 divided by 1,35,000, that is 5,100 should be taken. 5,100 should be taken, because only those inputs which are purchased within 1 year prior to the closing stock date we can take ITC. So 5,100 and 5,100 can be taken as ITC. Then inputs received on 31/1/2019 lying in finished goods in stock on 16/6/2019, 1,55,000 and 9,300, 9,300. Is it purchased within 1 year? Of course. So therefore we can take this as ITC. Capital goods, yes, capital goods also we can take ITC, but there is a computation involved. What is that computation that is involved? Take the original ITC as reduced by 5% for every quarter or part thereof. So it's at balance life. What does it mean? Means original purchase. When is it originally purchased? 10/12/2018. Is it within 1 year as on closing stock date? Yes. And take that and reduce 5% for every quarter or part thereof from the date of purchase till the date of conversion. When it got converted, 16/6 it got converted. So every quarter or part thereof. Here quarter should be taken as calendar quarter. 10/12 means, so that is also 1 quarter. December 2018, 1 quarter. Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June. So 3 quarters. 3 quarters. So 96,000 minus 5% into 3 quarters, that is 15%. So 96,000 minus 15% equals to 96,000 minus 15%, that is 81,600. We can take ITC. Got it? We can take ITC with respect to capital goods. So 12,000 5,100, 5,100, 9,300, 9,300 and 81,600. Now, for completing this table, you will be given 4 marks you will be given for completing this table. For completing this table, you will be given 4 marks. Now, you need to get 1 mark for this computation. So, for writing these notes about what? About how we got 5,100 and about the capital goods. So, for writing these notes, you will be getting 2 marks. So, please see whether you have got 8 out of 8. So, first paragraph if you have written, give 2 marks. If you have done only the computation, so you give 4 marks. If you have not written the work notes, then you will not get that 2 marks. You should have written this working notes. Okay. So at least this working notes, if it is inside the table, how you got that numbers, so then you will get 6 marks for that. But if you have not written, then out of 8 marks you will be getting. See, this is the place where students will do mistake. The first paragraph they will not write, so 2 marks gone. And these working notes they will not show, 2 marks gone. So they will be thinking they get 8 out of 8, but ultimately they will be getting only 4 marks in reality. So out of 8 marks, 4 marks is gone there itself. Okay, so that mistake we should not do. Even though our answer is correct, but because of the presentation we will be losing marks. Got it? So presentation plays a major role in CA exams. Descriptive questions, you need to present it properly. Okay, now then we will proceed to the next question. Question number 6A. Messrs X, being a manufacturer, sold goods to Messrs Y Limited, wholesaler, and issued invoice for the sale on 1/8/2019. What is the date on which invoice is issued? Actual date of invoice is 1/8/2019. Okay. Find the time of supply of goods in each of the following independent cases. So in this question number 6A, they sold goods. Goods, and anywhere it is given under RCM, no. So goods which are covered under FCM, means we need to apply section 12 subsection 2. So as per section 12 subsection 2, what is that we need to take? We need to first ensure the provision we know. What is that? As per section 12 subsection 2, the time of supply shall be the date on which invoice is issued or the date by which invoice is required to be issued, whichever is earlier. So here that earlier date we should be taking. So here the date on which invoice is given is known, but the due date of invoice we need to find. How to determine the due date of invoice? The due date of invoice is given in section 31. 147, subsection 1, subsection 4 and subsection 7 deals with due date of invoice. Subsection 4 is continuous supply of goods, not applicable. Subsection 7, sale on approval or on return basis, that is not applicable. So subsection 1. In that subsection 1, there are 2 aspects. Supply involves movement of goods, supply does not involve movement of goods. If supply involves movement of goods at the time of removal, and if supply does not involve movement of goods at the time of delivery, should be taken. So number 1, Messrs X Limited removes the goods for delivery to Messrs Y Limited on 16th August. So that is the due date of invoice, 16th August, because that is the date on which they are removing. The due date of invoice is that date, 16th August, and the actual date of invoice is 1st August. So whichever is earlier, the time of supply in this case is 1st August. So like that you should write, and this question is for 4 marks. You will get 1 mark each, but you need to properly explain. Please say this. As per section 12 subsection 2, what is the time of supply? As per section 31 subsection 1, what is the due date of invoice? Therefore the time of supply is 1/8/2019. Like that if you have written, you give 1 mark. If you have just written time of supply 1/8/2019, not even 1 mark. Only when you have given the explanation, you put 1 mark, otherwise don't put, leave it. Then second, Messrs Y Limited collects the goods from the premises of Messrs X Limited on 10th August 2019. Messrs. Y Limited collects the goods from premises of Messrs. X Limited on 10th August 2019. Supply does not involve movement of goods, as the recipient is coming to the supplier's place and they are collecting the goods and they are leaving. So therefore supply does not involve movement of goods. We need to take at the time of delivery. When is the goods delivered? 10th August, that should be taken as the due date of invoice. And the actual date of invoice is 1st August. So 1st August or 10th August, whichever is earlier, is 1st August. So like that you need to write the answer. So if there is no explanation, don't put the answer, don't give the marks there. Don't give the marks, okay? See, don't cheat yourself. Because if you have written, you give marks. If you have not written, don't give marks. Ultimately what will happen is that, you will be knowing. See, you are not going to tell to anyone as to how many marks you got. You are going to do it as a self-evaluation for your purpose. So when you do that way, okay, so what will happen? You will really know how many marks I am getting and you will make steps to improve further, because you have still time left to improve yourself. So it's not that you don't know the subject. I'm not telling that you don't know the subject. You know the subject. But there are certain nuances of presentation which you should be knowing. So if you know that, so you will be getting that extra marks with the same effort. Okay, so that's what my attempt is. So therefore don't give marks if you are not given the explanation related to that. Then number 3, Messrs. Y Limited made full payment on 26th July 2019. So payment is irrelevant in case of section 12 subsection 2, because there is one notification 66/2017 which says that the date of payment is irrelevant whenever the goods time of supply is determined under FCM. It is only the actual date of invoice or due date of invoice, whichever is earlier, even though date of payment is there, but that is irrelevant. Therefore, the time of supply will not change and it is the same, that is 1st August. Okay, like that. So you have to refer about that notification. If you don't know the notification, at least you write that as per the laid down notification. You don't have to refer to the notification number, as per the laid down notification by CBIC. So date of payment is irrelevant for determining the time of supply in case of goods covered under forward charge mechanism. Therefore the answer will remain the same as 1st August 2018. Like that, if you have written, give 1 mark. Then next, Messrs. Y Limited credited the payment in the bank account of Messrs. X Limited on 28 July. Messrs. X Limited recorded the same as receipt in his books on 3rd August. The goods are dispatched on 5th August from the warehouse. Now, so that is irrelevant. That is what? 28th July, and the date on which payment is received or entered in the books is relevant, but the date on which goods are dispatched, 5th August, that should be taken as the due date of invoice at the time of removal, and the actual date of invoice is 1st August. So whichever is earlier, so you will be taking 1st August. Okay. So here you need to write that the payment is relevant and the time of supply how you determine. Then you will give 1 mark. Okay. Then, so therefore the question is easy, but only thing, the presentation that plays a role. So if you need 4 marks, you should have properly presented it. There are many students who are not able to clear CA Inter exam only because of that reason, that they don't know what is the way in which they need to present. They know subject, they will be learning it, they will be spending lot of time. Compared to a CA final student, CA Inter student has got lot of time to prepare. CA final students, they will be going for articleship. Only in the mornings and evenings they need to prepare, that too well in advance. We will never prepare. If the exam is next year, then only we will start our preparation, attending classes, thereafter preparing, and only 3 months study holidays will be given. In the 3 months they need to complete everything and go. So therefore this is very, very difficult for CA final students, but CA Inter is not like that. So they are preparing, but only thing, the presentation, they are losing lot of marks. Okay. Now say this. Question number 6b. A chartered accountant in Mumbai supplied service relating to incorporation of a company to Mr. Deepak in Kolkata. He charged fees as follows. Professional fee for incorporation of a company, rupees 1 lakh. Filing fees and registration charges paid to registrar of company 60,000. Reimbursement of travelling. Okay, what is that we need to do? We need to compute the value of supply. Now this is purely a practical question just for 2 marks. So therefore you don't have to write too much, you just arrive at the answer that is sufficient. That is, first we need to take the professional fee. So give a heading, computation of value of taxable supply, professional fee to incorporate a company 1 lakh, filing fees and registration charges paid to registrar, expenditure incurred as a pure agent and it will not be included in the value. So therefore don't include 60,000. Reimbursement of travelling and out of pocket expense on actual basis. So that is not a pure agent, it is in the course of supply. So as per section 15 subsection 2 clause C, incidental expense or any other expenses charged to the recipient before supply of service should be included in the value. So therefore include 10,000. So therefore the value will be 1,10,000. So this much if you write, that is sufficient because it is just for 2 marks only. And on that, whether the rate is given, rate is not given. If the rate is given, you write that, otherwise not required. I just gave it 18% for just extra information, but actually that is not required. So if you have arrived at the value 1,10,000 by properly writing, that 60,000 will not be included because of pure agent and 10,000 will be included because of expenditure incurred by the supplier and charged to the recipient before supply. So that information is sufficient. You will get 2 out of 2. Then question number 6C, Pioneer Academy, sole proprietorship firm of Mr. Ashish, is providing private coaching for IAS and is registered under GST. So whether the private coaching is covered under any exemption? No, this is not an educational institution. During November 2019, it organizes a seminar on demonetization impact on Indian economy and in its campus in Delhi. Okay, discuss the taxability of the following receipts in the hands of Pioneer Academy. First, sponsorship charges of rupees 20 lakhs from a sole proprietor of business for grant of sponsorship rights. Okay, so they have given 3 points. Above figures are exclusive of GST. GST will be charged in addition to the amount given above. Applicable GST rate is 18%. Presume all supplies as intra-state supplies. So we need to discuss the taxability of the following receipts. We need to discuss the taxability of the following receipts in the hands of Pioneer Academy. First, with respect to sponsorship services, who will be having liability to pay GST? The liability to pay GST in case of sponsorship services is on the recipient, that is the one who gives the sponsorship money, if they are body corporate or firm. If they are other than body corporate or firm, then the one who collects the sponsorship money is required to pay GST. In case of number 1, sponsorship charges of rupees 20 lakhs from Mr. A. So A is a sole proprietor, individual, as the recipient is individual. Liability to pay GST on 20 lakhs is on Pioneer Academy. Okay. GST payable by Pioneer Academy under FCM. So you need to properly write. First you need to give a heading. Taxability of receipts in the hands of Pioneer Academy. Sole proprietorship firm of Mr. Ashish. Receipts. Taxability, whether it is taxable or exempted, applicability of RCM and GST payable by the Pioneer Academy. First, sponsorship services, it is taxable, we don't have any exemption, and RCM is not applicable as the recipient is not body corporate or firm. So GST payable by Pioneer Academy 3,50,000. What if in this case the recipient is A Limited? Then Pioneer Academy will not pay GST, that A Limited will pay GST. Advertisement charges of rupees 30,000 from B Limited. This is the place where all of you would have committed mistake. You would have taken like sponsorship services and the recipient is body corporate, therefore GST is payable under RCM, like that you would have written. But actually that is wrong, because advertisement services is nowhere under the RCM, only sponsorship service is there under RCM. There is a big difference between advertisement services and sponsorship services. Sponsorship is like they will be having a role in participation, whereas this advertisement means organizing, they have a role, but in advertisement it is just they will be selling the space for advertisement. They will be selling the space for advertisement, and even without advertisement they will start the event, but without sponsorship they will not start the event. So this advertisement is like for putting banners or for putting stalls or kiosks, etc. They will collect some amount. So that will come under sale of space for advertisement or sale of any time for advertisement. So that is an advertisement services which is not there under RCM. So therefore in that case we will pay GST, and nowhere we have exemption also with respect to advertisement services. So GST payable by Pioneer Academy. This is the second point, is the place where everyone would have committed mistake. So that's a trap, and therefore here the liability to pay GST is on Pioneer Academy. And as this is an important point, you will be given 1 mark for the first one. If you have written first one correctly, 1 mark, second one correctly, 2 marks, and third one correctly, 1 mark. You give marking that way. So that second point is a crucial one. So very important one. If you have written, you would have got 2 marks. This is how the step marking also will be in exam. Okay. Then, so therefore, if you have used your mind, you would have got good marks. Donations of rupees 50,000 from a salaried employee. He does not want his name to be appeared anywhere in the seminar. Okay, so there is nothing called as business promotion there. So we are not promoting his name, and it is not like sponsorship also, because you don't want his name to be appeared anywhere. If you remember, we discussed donations. If the business name is displayed, even though he don't want, but we displayed the business name, it will become supply, but we did not display any name. So therefore it is unconditional donation, not a supply. Unconditional donation, not a supply, and there is no GST payable. Then question number 7A. AB Private Limited Pune provides housekeeping services. The company supplies its service exclusively through an e-commerce website owned and managed by Hi-Tech India Private Limited Pune. The turnover of AB Private Limited in the current financial year is 18 lakhs. Advise AB Private Limited as to whether they are required to obtain GST registration. Will your advice be any different if AB Private Limited sells ready-made garments exclusively through the e-commerce website owned and managed by Hi-Tech India Private Limited? There are 2 parts. So you will be given 2 marks each. You will be given 2 marks each. Okay. So first, what is that you need to write? What is their turnover during the financial year? 18 lakhs. So they are engaged in services. For service sector, what is the threshold limit for registration? 20 lakhs. So their threshold limit did not exceed, so they are not required to get registered. So the supplier AB Private Limited is not registered. And when an unregistered person is supplying services through e-commerce operator, the liability to pay GST is on e-commerce operator, correct or not? So because it is a notified service under section 9 subsection 5, what is that you need to write? First you need to comment on the registration. As the aggregate turnover of AB Private Limited during the current financial year does not exceed the threshold limit for registration, that is 20 lakhs, they are not registered. Also, when they are making supply of housekeeping services through an e-commerce operator, the liability to pay GST is on e-commerce operator, because housekeeping service is a notified service for the purpose of section 9 subsection 5. That if you have written, you would have got 2 marks. So the liability to pay GST is on that Hi-Tech India Private Limited. So AB Private Limited, are they required to obtain any registration? Not required. What will be your answer if AB Private Limited, that too whenever we are supplying only through e-commerce operator, that e-commerce operator only will pay. What will be your answer if AB Private Limited sells ready-made garments through e-commerce operator? Now we have compulsory registration, that is supplier of goods through e-commerce operator is compulsorily required to get registered under section 24. Accordingly, AB Private Limited is compulsorily required to get registered. So that is the answer. So like that, if you have presented the answer Nayar, so you will be getting, suppose if you have written that 9 subsection 5 point properly, you will get 2 marks. And even this registration requirement, compulsory registration, if you have written, you would have got 2 marks. Okay. Then next, 7B, whether goods supplied on hire purchase basis will be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Why? Any goods supplied on hire purchase basis will be treated as supply of goods only, because there is a transfer of title in goods. Transfer of title in goods at present or at future date will be treated as supply of goods only. Hire purchase, even though possession is at present, but the transfer of title is at a future date, and it will be treated as supply of goods. Okay. So like that, if you have written, you would have got 2 marks. It's direct. There is nothing in that. Then question number 7C, Mr. Nawab, a performing artist, provides the following information relating to receipts in December 2019 from performing classical dance. What is it we need to do? Determine the value of taxable supply. Now, first we will give a heading, computation of value of taxable supply of Mr. Nawab, a performing artist, for the month of December 2019. Number 1, performing classical dance. If you remember, there is one exemption. So, services by a performance artist in classical or folk art form of music, dance and theatre, where the consideration charged per performance does not exceed rupees 1,50,000. However, this exemption is not available if they are acting as a brand ambassador. So therefore, here it is a performing artist, that too in dance in classical art form. Therefore, it is exempted. Like that you should write. Okay. So 1 mark for each year. So here classical dance performance nil, but the working note I have given, but even you can include that note in this table itself. You can include that note in the table itself and you will be given marks. Okay. Then next, services performing in television serial. So performance artist is an artist who performs before the audience and not before the camera. And when they are acting in TV serial or movies etc., they are not eligible for any exemption. Therefore, it is taxable. Like that you should write. Then service as a brand ambassador. Even though performance artist exemption is available, if per performance they are not collecting more than 1,50,000, but that exemption is not available if they are acting as a brand ambassador. So therefore, it is taxable. Performing western dance, it is not given in the exemption, therefore it is taxable. Okay. So like that you need to present the answer, reasoning, and then you need to arrive at the total, and whether GST rate is given, yes. So compute the GST and show, you will be given marks 4 out of 4. Okay. So these numbers, each and every point 1 mark total, and this should be correct. Next, question number 8A. Question number 8A. State whether the following supplies would be treated as supply of goods or supply of services as per Schedule 2 of CGST Act. And see, there are 2 parts in this. This question maybe 3 points, so 3 marks could be awarded for this if you have written, and for this it is 2 marks. Now first, chemical treatment on goods belonging to another person. Repair of goods of another person, manufacture of garments out of fabric and other materials supplied by another person. Is it supply of goods or supply of services? Carrying out process on goods belonging to another person is termed as job work, and the job work activity is supply of service. In the present case, there is no transfer of title, so they receive the goods from the recipient and they are making the process on those goods and they are returning those goods to the recipient, and it will be treated as supply of service in all cases. Okay. So like that you need to write. Please see. So section 7(1)(a) read which Schedule 2 specifies, that is a section reference you need to give, specifies which item will be considered as goods and which item will be considered as service. It specified that processing or treating goods belonging to another person shall be treated as supply of service. Thus in all cases there is supply of service. Value of supply of service is job work charges. Then next, is transfer of title and or possession necessary for transaction to constitute supply of goods? Yes. Transfer of title, whenever there involves an activity for which there is a transfer of title in goods, whether at present or at a future date, then it will be treated as supply of goods. So possession may be present and the title is transferred at a future date, it is treated as supply of goods only. And that is this. Okay. Suppose if the title is not transferred but only the right to use is given, possession is given, it will be treated as supply of service. Last question, question number 8, B or C. So in that 8B or 8C, any one you need to write. What are the permissible modes of making deposits into the electronic cash ledger? So electronic cash ledger we need to write. So it's a theory question. See, how much ever you may write, here you will not score beyond 3-4 marks. Okay. So What about electronic cash ledger? It is GST PMT 0, GST PMT 05 is the electronic cash ledger, and electronic cash ledger, the various modes of deposits they are asking. So 4 modes are there, that is net banking, debit card, credit card, NEFT, RTGS, over the counter, and the over the counter has a restriction of 10,000 rupees per month, per 10,000 rupees per tax period, that is per month. However, in the following cases, the 10,000 restriction is not applicable. What are those cases? There are 4 cases. Number 1, whenever the deposit is made by the government itself, then whenever proper officer has identified the cash during the recovery proceedings, and whenever the proper officer is required to conduct an audit and they have identified some unexplained cash. So all these they will be depositing without any restriction, and such other case as may be notified by the government. So that you need to write. So 4 modes: internet banking, credit card, debit card, NEFT, RTGS, over the counter, and the restriction of 10,000 shall not be applicable when government departments deposit is made by government department. For example, IRCTC, if you take Indian Railways, they will be collecting GST on first class tickets on any AC coach, and now that GST when they are making deposit, so that deposit can be through cash without any limit. Recovery of outstanding dues, so whenever the officer recovers the outstanding dues from the person, that by selling property or movable assets etc., they can deposit in cash. Amount collected by GST officer during investigation or any enforcement activity, they will be conducting investigation, inspection etc. At that time they will be identifying some unexplained cash that they will seize and they will be depositing as cash. So no need to follow the 10,000 restriction in these 3 cases. So it's a purely theory question. If you write that, you will be given 5 marks. Suppose if you have written only these 4 modes, you will get 3 marks. 2 marks is gone. Then next question number 8C, 5 marks. Can a person take ITC without payment of consideration for the supply along with tax to the supplier? Yes. So we need to write section 16 subsection 1 and 16 subsection 2, conditions for availment of ITC does not prescribe any condition that the recipient can avail the ITC only when the payment is made to the supplier, that is amount plus tax. However, as per proviso to section 16 subsection 2, if the recipient has not made value plus tax to the supplier within 180 days from the date of invoice, so much of the ITC availed by the recipient should be reversed along with interest at the rate of 18% per annum. Okay, that point we should write. So say this. So that information 18% per annum. Okay, and this if you have written, you will get 3 marks. B, is there any time limit for reclaiming the credit when the payment is made after 180 days? So if the payment is not made within 180 days, we are reversing the ITC, and as and when the payment is made, again that ITC can be availed. Again that ITC can be availed. Okay, and there is no time limit. We have a time limit section 16 subsection 4, but that time limit is not applicable in case of re-availment of credit. If you have written that, you will get 2 marks. So that's where 5 marks. Okay friends, so hope this mock test is useful for you, and you are really taking up the test and checking the answer. Hardly it will take for you to write the answers 1 hour 20 minutes. You keep a timer, you write the answers in the answer sheet, 1 hour 20 minutes timer you keep, and then you start watching this once the test is over, then later on you see the video and you start evaluating. So you will be knowing how many marks you are getting and you can improve it further. Next. So the another mock test you will be receiving by tomorrow morning, and you will be getting, I'll make it as soon as possible by today itself. If not, tomorrow morning you will be receiving. And in that mock test, so whatever is that I told you, those points you consider and you present the answer. Thereafter, see the answer sheet and the video and you please evaluate yourself. Okay, so the next will be mock test 3 and then the mock test 4. So 4 mock tests will be sufficient. Okay, if you insist, I can give 5th mock test also. Let's see how the time progress, and based on that we can do. Thank you, and please do share these videos because for your sake only I have done, and please pass on this to many friends of yours, and even please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and if any friends who wanted to know about it, so please share these videos to them also, share in your Facebook or Insta etc., so that many people can get benefited. Okay, thank you, thanks a lot.